And I welcome you to version 2 of the VRRP load balancing video. Those of you who heard the first one know exactly what I'm talking about. We just had a little double tracking issue, and you would think that listening to me talk about two different subjects at once would be twice as efficient for your education, but the feedback was pretty negative, gotta say, even though it had a little Revolution 9 from the Beatles' White Album vibe going on. We'll just blame Yoko and move straight on to VRRP load balancing. Like HSRP, VRRP wasn't exactly built with load balancing in mind, so it's a little bit of a workaround here, a little bit of a trick, whatever we want to call it, when it comes to load balancing with VRRP, because what we're going to do is create a second virtual router, which means creating a separate VRRP group. And what you have to do, since we have two devices, and right now in the lab, switch 2 is the master for the VRRP group we've already created, group 1. We're going to create another one now, and we have to make sure that switch 1, MLS 1, is the master for that particular group. Then what we have to do is go to our hosts and configure them so half of them are using the first virtual router as their default gateway, and the other half is using the second virtual router. So again, this should sound pretty familiar, and let's go ahead and bring up the live equipment and slide it over here a little bit, and we'll just make sure, as I said, here's group 1 that we had before in the previous videos, and MLS 2 is the master, MLS 1 is the backup. And we're going to go ahead and start over on MLS 2, and we're going to use a different group number this time. Well, we have to use a different group number. Let's just use something really different. We're still going to go right back to the VLAN. And we'll use group 55, and the address for this virtual router is going to be 172.16.23.21. We already see that it's gone from init to backup. We already see this switch has gone from backup to master. Now we don't want it to remain the master, so what are we going to do over on switch 1? I know you know, but I'm just going to go and put the first command in while you're yelling at the screen. This is what you do. We're going to have raised the priority, and we'll actually double it in this case, because you can see the state change message is almost immediate that we've gone from init to backup, but what we don't see is a backup to master message. That's what we want. So we'll go ahead and just double that. And there's one message, there's a config message, and there's the other message, the one we want right there, VRRP state change. Group 55 for VLAN 100 has changed state from backup to master, and that's exactly what we want. We'll run show VRRP just to verify, and what we see is exactly what we expected. It's exactly what we wanted. Switch 1 has become the master for group 55 and the backup for group 1, and switch 2, it's the inverse, I think would be the best way to put it. Total opposite. It's going to be the master for group 1 and the backup for 55. Then we got to go to our hosts and we got to do our thing with pointing half of them to one of the two addresses we've given to the virtual routers and the other half to the other address. A little bit clunky, you know, I'll certainly admit it's better to have load balancing than no load balancing at all. Better to have clunky load balancing, I should say, than no load balancing at all. But what we will do next in the very next video, and this is what we ended up with, just wanted to show you. We've got host 3, which is using 23.12 as its default gateway, and it's actually sending its data to MLS 2, where host 2 is using the other virtual router, and MLS 1 is handling that one. So that's our load balancing. You know, it's okay, it's good to have it, but what we'd really like to do is work with a first hop redundancy protocol that actually had load balancing in mind when it was designed, and we were going to work with such a protocol in the very next video. I'll see you there.